Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Before the mirror, Magnus scrutinized their reflection, features artfully contorted with foreign elegance. The tailored ensemble, a fusion of charcoal grays and pale pinks, was a testament to Caroline's meticulous tailoring. "A little longer, please," she coaxed, eyes critically scanning every seam and fold. "Let me ensure the perfect fit." Resigned, Magnus complied, embracing the transformation, the fabric whispering promises of a sophisticated persona with each subtle movement. "Just a few more minutes. I need this suit to be perfect for my interview next week." She circled her brother, tugging at seams and smoothing wrinkles. "Besides, we're practically the same size. If this fits you, it'll fit me perfectly." The suit did fit remarkably well. The tailored jacket accentuated a waistline Magnus didn't realize he had, and the trousers fell in a clean, elegant line. The mirror reflected someone polished and professional. "See? You look great." Caroline grinned, adjusting the collar of the pink blouse.
"Much better than those baggy jeans and wrinkled button-ups you always wear."
Before Magnus could retort, his phone buzzed loudly from the dresser. He reached for it, nearly dislodging one of Caroline's carefully placed pins. "Careful!" she scolded. Magnus checked the caller ID, and his heart nearly stopped.
"It's Westridge Tech,"
he whispered, eyes wide. Caroline froze. "The company you've been trying to get into for 2 years? Answer it!" With shaking hands, Magnus accepted the call.
"Hello, this is Magnus."
The crisp, professional voice on the other end introduced herself as Helena from Westridge Tech's HR department. Magnus listened, his expression shifting from surprise to panic as Helena explained they'd reviewed his application and wanted to interview him immediately via video call. Their team had an unexpected opening, and decisions needed to be made by the end of the day.
"Now? A video interview right now?"
Magnus repeated, locking eyes with Caroline in the mirror. "Yes, if that works for you. The hiring manager is available for the next 30 minutes only," Helena explained. Magnus's mind raced. Westridge Tech was the industry leader in sustainable technology development, his dream company. He'd applied repeatedly over the past 2 years with no success. This opportunity might never come again.
"Yes, of course. I can do it now,"
he heard himself say, ignoring Caroline's wide-eyed gestures at his current attire. After hanging up, Caroline grabbed his shoulders. "Are you crazy? You're wearing my women's suit with a pink blouse!" Magnus glanced at himself in the mirror again, panic rising. "I know, but there's no time to change. She's sending the video link in 5 minutes, and this might be my only shot." Caroline shook her head. "So, what's your plan? Explain you're wearing women's clothes during your dream job interview?" The situation seemed impossible. Then, an idea formed. Absurd, but perhaps the only option.
What if they don't know I'm Magnus?"
he suggested quietly, turning to examine his profile in the mirror. Caroline stared at him. "What are you saying?"
"The resume has my credentials, but only my first initial. M. Baker. They've never seen me before."
Magnus straightened the pink blouse, something shifting in his demeanor.
"What if they meet Caroline? You want to interview as me?"
Caroline looked bewildered.
"No, not as you exactly. Just as a woman. The resume is still mine. The experience is mine. Just a different presentation."
Magnus ran his fingers through his brown hair, which he'd been growing out for months, and now fell just below his ears in a shaggy style.
I could make this work for 30 minutes.
Caroline seemed unconvinced.
This is insane. More insane than missing my one shot at Westridge?
Magnus countered.
Help me, please.
With a resigned sigh, Caroline grabbed her makeup bag. Sit down. We've got 3 minutes to make you presentable. Those 3 minutes transformed Magnus. Caroline worked quickly, applying foundation, blush, mascara, and a neutral lip color. She mussed his brown hair into something resembling a stylish pixie cut, tucking strands behind his ears, where she quickly attached small silver studs. Lower your voice a bit. Not too deep, just softer, she instructed. And remember to smile. Women are expected to smile more in professional settings. Magnus's phone chimed with the incoming video call request. With one final glance in the mirror at the stranger looking back, he took a deep breath, sat at his desk, adjusted the laptop camera angle, and clicked accept.
Hello, this is M. Baker,
he said in a gentle, measured tone that surprised even himself. 3 faces appeared on screen. Helena from HR, a silver-haired man introduced as the CTO, and a younger woman named Rebecca, the department head. Magnus felt his heart racing, but maintained composure, focusing on channeling the confidence the suit seemed to naturally provide.
Thank you for joining us on such short notice, Miss Baker,
Helena began. The interview proceeded with standard questions about experience and qualifications. Magnus responded thoughtfully, his voice maintaining its softer quality. The technical questions came next, and here Magnus shined, explaining complex concepts clearly and demonstrating expertise gained from years of independent study and his current position. Your approach to the integration challenge is fascinating, Rebecca noted, leaning forward with interest. Most candidates don't consider the human factors alongside the technical components.
Technology should serve people, not the other way around,
Magnus responded, relaxing into the conversation.
The most elegant solutions recognize that balance.
As the interview continued, something unexpected happened. The nervousness that had plagued Magnus in previous interviews melted away. The suit, the softer voice, the different presentation, it all created a strange buffer that allowed his true capabilities to shine through without his usual self-doubt interfering. The CTO nodded appreciatively.
I'm impressed with your perspective, Ms. Baker. You present complex ideas with remarkable clarity.
Thank you, Magnus replied, a genuine smile forming.
I believe clarity is essential when bridging technology and practical application.
By the time the interview concluded 30 minutes later, Magnus felt a curious sense of accomplishment mixed with disbelief at what he'd just done. We're very impressed with your qualifications and presence, Ms. Baker, Helena said. In fact, if you're available, we'd like to offer you the position. Magnus blinked in surprise.
You would?
Your technical knowledge is exactly what we need, and your communication style would be an asset to the team. We can email the offer details today if you're interested. Yes, I'm definitely interested. Thank you. After the call ended, Magnus sat in stunned silence. Caroline burst into the room. Well, how did it go?
They offered me the job,
Magnus whispered.
On the spot.
Caroline squealed and hugged him. That's amazing! But what happens now, when they expect Miss Baker to show up on Monday? Magnus turned back to the mirror, studying his reflection. The person looking back seemed right somehow, in a way he'd never felt before. The realization that had been building throughout the interview crystallized into sudden clarity.
What if Miss Baker does show up,"
he said softly. Caroline's expression shifted from confusion to understanding. "Magnus? I've never felt so present during an interview. Like the real me was finally able to speak without all the anxiety and self-doubt." Magnus touched the collar of the pink blouse. "What if this isn't just a disguise? What if this is who I was supposed to be all along?" 2 months later, Caroline, formerly Magnus, stepped into the Westridge Tech building for her weekly department meeting. Her brown hair had grown out slightly, now styled in a proper pixie cut that framed her face elegantly. She wore a navy blue pencil skirt with a cream blouse and the same charcoal gray jacket from her interview. "Morning, Caroline," called Rebecca, now her direct supervisor. "Ready for the client presentation?" "Absolutely," Caroline responded, adjusting her portfolio. "I finalized the projections last night." The transition had been surprisingly smooth. After the interview, Caroline had reached out to Helena in HR with complete honesty about her situation. Instead of rejection, she found support. Westridge had a comprehensive inclusion policy and worked with her through the early stages of her transition, allowing her to start immediately while beginning her journey. In the conference room, Caroline took her seat at the table, opened her laptop, and prepared her notes. As executives filed in, she exchanged easy greetings with colleagues who had quickly come to respect her work and insights. The CTO nodded in her direction. "Caroline, we'll want your thoughts on the implementation timeline after marketing presents." "Of course," she replied with confidence that grew stronger each day. When it was her turn to speak, Caroline stood and presented her department's progress with clarity and precision. The questions that followed were challenging but fair, and she addressed each one thoroughly, drawing on technical expertise that had always been hers, but now flowed more naturally. After the meeting, Rebecca pulled her aside. "The VP was impressed with your presentation. The Singapore project is opening up, and they're looking for someone to take lead. I recommended you." "Singapore? That's a significant opportunity," Caroline remarked, surprised at the offer after just 2 months. "You've proven yourself quickly. Your technical skills were never in question, but your ability to communicate complex ideas across departments has been invaluable." Rebecca smiled. "Think about it, and let me know by Friday." Back in her office, Caroline sat at her desk, taking a moment to absorb how much had changed in such a short time. Her nameplate read, Caroline Baker, Systems Integration Specialist, a title and identity that felt more authentic than anything she'd experienced before. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "Lunch today? Want to hear about your big meeting?" Caroline smiled and responded affirmatively, grateful for her sister's unwavering support throughout her transition. While some friends had drifted away, her sister had remained her biggest ally, helping her navigate everything from wardrobe choices to family conversations. The afternoon sun slanted through her office blinds as Caroline reviewed the Singapore project details. The role would be challenging, but exactly the kind of work she'd always dreamed of doing at Westridge. Her fingers traced the edge of her desk as she contemplated how different her life might have been without that fateful interview in her sister's suit. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It was Devon from the engineering team.
"Got a minute? We've hit a snag with the interface integration,"
he said. "Of course," Caroline replied, gesturing to the chair opposite her desk. "Walk me through it." As they discussed technical specifications, Caroline felt that same sense of rightness that had been growing stronger each day. This was where she belonged, not just at Westridge, but in her own skin. After work, Caroline met her sister at their favorite cafe near the office. The autumn air had turned cool, and Caroline adjusted her light scarf as she entered the warm, fragrant space. "There you are," her sister waved from a corner table. "I ordered your usual." Caroline slid into the seat across from her, placing her handbag beside her. "Thanks. It's been quite a day." "Tell me everything," her sister insisted, passing her a mug of tea. "How was the big presentation?" "It went better than expected. They're considering me for the Singapore project lead." Her sister's eyes widened. "Already? That's fantastic. Though I'd miss you if you moved overseas." "It would only be for 6 months," Caroline explained, warming her hands around the mug. "And it's not certain yet." They chatted about work and family matters until her sister mentioned an upcoming date. "Speaking of which," her sister ventured, "Devin from your office called me. Asked if I thought you might be interested in getting coffee sometime." Caroline nearly choked on her tea. "Devin asked about me? Is that so surprising? You're smart, accomplished, and look amazing in that charcoal suit," her sister teased. "Though you did steal my interview outfit." "I did not steal it," Caroline protested with a laugh. "I literally became the person it was altered for." They shared a moment of laughter, the kind that acknowledged how strange and wonderful life's turns could be. "Are you happy, Caroline?" her sister asked more seriously. "Really happy?" Caroline considered the question. "I'm more myself than I've ever been. The job is challenging in all the right ways, and for the first time, I don't feel like I'm playing a role that doesn't fit." She smiled softly. "So, yes, I'm happy." "Then that's all that matters," her sister said, squeezing her hand across the table. 6 months later, Caroline stood in her apartment in Singapore, preparing for her day. The view from her window showcased the city's stunning skyline, buildings glittering in the early morning light. Her brown hair had grown longer now, falling just above her shoulders in gentle waves. She'd kept the same color, finding comfort in this small connection to her past self while embracing everything else that had changed. She selected a slate blue dress with a tailored black jacket, professional attire for the client meeting scheduled that morning. Her makeup routine had become second nature, applied with practiced confidence rather than the nervous hands of those first days. The project had flourished under her leadership. What had begun as a 6-month assignment had extended to a year, with the potential to become permanent. The Westridge Singapore office had welcomed her expertise, and she'd built a reputation as a meticulous, insightful team leader. Her phone rang. Rebecca calling from the U.S. office. "How's our star expatriate?" Rebecca greeted. "Ready for the Taylor presentation?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Caroline replied, putting the call on speaker as she finished her makeup. The team worked through the weekend to refine the prototype. It's impressive work. The higher-ups are watching this one closely. Success could mean expansion throughout the region. "No pressure there," Caroline remarked dryly. Rebecca laughed.
You thrive under pressure. It's why you were perfect for this position.
After the call, Caroline gathered her materials and headed out. The humid Singapore air enveloped her as she stepped outside. So different from the climate she'd left behind. A taxi took her through the bustling streets to the gleaming Westridge building in the business district. Her team waited in the conference room, everyone dressed in corporate finery, nervous energy palpable. Caroline had hired half of them herself, building a diverse group with complementary skills. "Good morning, everyone," she greeted, setting down her portfolio. "Final check before the clients arrive. Ming, how's the demonstration model?" A young engineer nodded confidently. Running perfectly after those adjustments you suggested. The meeting with Taylor Industries unfolded smoothly. Caroline led the presentation with the confident authority she'd developed over the past year. When challenging questions arose, she directed them to appropriate team members, showcasing their collective expertise.
Your team has exceeded our expectations, Ms. Baker,
Mr. Taylor acknowledged as they wrapped up.
We'd like to proceed with implementation across all our regional facilities.
Handshakes and congratulations followed. After the clients departed, the team celebrated quietly, professional decorum giving way to relieved smiles and subtle high fives. This calls for a proper celebration, Caroline announced. Dinner tonight on the company account. That evening, the team gathered at a rooftop restaurant overlooking Marina Bay. Caroline wore the same outfit from the day, having come directly from a follow-up meeting with management. The conversation flowed easily, work talk giving way to personal stories as the evening progressed. Ming raised a glass. To Caroline, who somehow knew this would work, even when the prototype kept failing. To persistence, Caroline responded, touching her glass to his. And to this incredible team. As dinner concluded and team members began departing, Ming lingered. Can I ask you something personal? He inquired as they stood by the railing, the Singapore skyline glittering before them. Depends on the question, Caroline replied with a small smile. How did you know that this was the right move for your career? Coming to Singapore was a big leap. Caroline considered the layers of his question, wondering if he somehow knew about her transition. She'd been open with HR but hadn't discussed it widely with colleagues. Sometimes the most important decisions don't feel like decisions at all, she finally answered. They feel like recognition, acknowledging what's already true about yourself. She gazed out at the city lights. I knew this was right because it terrified me and excited me in equal measure. Ming nodded thoughtfully. I've been offered a position with the new Australian office. It would be a promotion, but I'm hesitant to leave what we've built here. The best teams create leaders who outgrow them, Caroline said. You should take it. Later that night, in her apartment, Caroline video called her sister, eager to share news of the successful presentation. They want to make the Singapore position permanent, Caroline explained, tucking a strand of brown hair behind her ear. With a significant promotion. That's wonderful! Her sister exclaimed, then paused. But that means you're not coming back? Not for now, Caroline admitted. This feels right. I'm building something here, professionally and personally. I miss you, her sister said simply. But I'm so proud of who you've become. Who I always was, Caroline corrected gently. Just hidden behind the wrong presentation. The conversation shifted to family news. Their parents had slowly adjusted to Caroline's transition, moving from confused tolerance to genuine acceptance over time. It hadn't been without difficulty, but recent holiday video calls had felt almost normal. Oh, before I forget, her sister added, Devin asked for your Singapore address. Said something about sending documents, but seemed suspiciously interested for mere paperwork. Caroline laughed. We've been emailing. He's been supportive since the beginning. Supportive enough to consider an international flight? Her sister teased. That would be complicated. Life is complicated. Doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. After ending the call, Caroline stood by her window, contemplating how far she'd come from that panicked interview in borrowed clothes. The charcoal gray suit hung in her closet now, a talisman of sorts. rarely worn but treasured for what it had helped her discover. Her reflection in the window showed a confident woman at ease with herself, someone who had found authenticity by embracing change rather than fearing it. The path hadn't been easy, but each step had brought her closer to the person she was meant to be. 1 year later, Caroline stood at the podium in Westridge's main conference hall in the United States, addressing the company's annual leadership summit. Her brown hair now fell past her shoulders, styled in loose waves that framed her face. She wore a burgundy dress with a structured blazer, projecting the executive presence she'd earned through consistent results. "Innovation requires more than technical expertise," she stated to the room of department heads and executives. "It demands a willingness to see beyond established patterns and embrace uncomfortable truths." The presentation outlined the success of the Singapore expansion and the methodology she'd developed for cross-cultural team building. Slides displayed impressive growth metrics alongside testimonials from international clients. "Ms. Baker has revolutionized our approach to global markets," the CEO commented after her presentation. "The Singapore model will be implemented across all international divisions." Applause filled the room. Caroline acknowledged it with a gracious nod, feeling a sense of pride that extended beyond professional accomplishment. This moment represented a personal victory as well, standing authentically before colleagues, many of whom had never known her before her transition. At the reception afterward, Caroline navigated conversations with polished ease, discussing technical specifications one moment and cultural adaptation strategies the next. Several years of living as her true self had smoothed away the initial awkwardness, replacing it with natural confidence. Devon appeared at her elbow, offering a glass of sparkling water. "Impressive presentation," he said, his smile warm, "though I expected nothing less." "Thank you," she replied, accepting the drink. Their hands brushed briefly, a casual touch that carried familiar comfort. Devon had visited Singapore 3 times over the past year, and their friendship had gradually evolved into something deeper, navigating the complexities of distance and Caroline's journey with patient understanding. "Ready for dinner? The reservation's at 8, he reminded her. "Just need to speak with Rebecca first. Meet you in the lobby in 15 minutes? As Devon walked away, the CEO approached, accompanied by board members Caroline recognized from quarterly reports. "Caroline, there you are. We've been discussing the executive restructuring," the CEO began. "With Rebecca transitioning to the European division, we need someone to head global integration. Your name keeps coming up." Caroline maintained her composure despite her surprise. "I'm honored to be considered. The role would certainly build on our work in Singapore." "It would mean relocating back to headquarters, of course. Think about it and let us know next week." After they moved on, Caroline found a quiet corner to collect her thoughts. The position they'd mentioned would place her among the highest-ranking women in the company, a remarkable achievement by any standard, but particularly meaningful given her journey. Rebecca found her there, champagne flute in hand. "I told them you were the only logical choice," she said without preamble. "No one else understands both the technical and human elements like you do." "You're leaving for Europe? You didn't mention that in our calls." Rebecca shrugged. "It finalized yesterday. They're announcing it tomorrow." She studied Caroline thoughtfully. "You've come a long way from that nervous interview in a borrowed suit." Caroline looked at her sharply. "You knew? From the beginning?" "Helena told me after you'd been with us a month. By then, it didn't matter. You'd already proven yourself 10 times over." Rebecca smiled. "The suit fit perfectly, by the way. Some things are just meant to be." Later, Caroline met Devon in the lobby. He stood when he saw her approach, his expression brightening.
"Everything okay? You look deep in thought,"
he observed as they walked toward the restaurant.
"They've offered me the global integration position. It would mean moving back to headquarters."
Devon absorbed this information.
"That's significant. How do you feel about it?" "Conflicted. Singapore has become home in many ways."
She glanced at him. "But there are reasons to consider returning." His fingers found hers as they walked, a quiet acknowledgement of what remained unspoken between them.
"Whatever you decide, I'm in your corner."
The restaurant was elegant but not ostentatious, with white tablecloths and subtle lighting. They ordered and fell into comfortable conversation about the conference, family news, and future projects. Midway through the meal, Devon grew uncharacteristically quiet. "Something on your mind?" Caroline prompted. He met her gaze.
"Actually, yes. I've been considering a change myself."
He hesitated. "Westridge is expanding the engineering division in Singapore. They've approached me about heading it." Caroline set down her fork. "You'd move to Singapore?"
"If there were sufficient reason,"
he replied carefully.
"Though it seems you might be moving in the opposite direction."
She laughed softly at the irony. "We've spent a year managing long distance, and now we might cross paths mid-flight."
"Distance has never been the obstacle for us,"
Devon said, his expression serious.
"It's always been about timing and readiness. I didn't want to complicate your journey by inserting myself too prominently."
"And now?"
"Now I think we both know who we are and what we want."
He reached across the table for her hand.
"Whether that's in Singapore or here or somewhere entirely different."
The moment hung between them, full of possibility. Caroline thought about the paths that had brought her to this point, the accidental interview, the discovery of her true self, the professional success that had followed authenticity. "I spent so long pretending to be someone I wasn't," she said softly. "I'm not interested in relationships built on convenience or compromise." "Good," Devon replied. "Because I'm interested in you, Caroline Baker, exactly as you are, wherever you are." 3 years later, Caroline stood at the window of her executive office at Westridge headquarters, watching autumn leaves scatter across the campus grounds. Her brown hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, and she wore a deep green suit with a cream silk shell, a far cry from the borrowed charcoal gray outfit that had started her journey, but chosen with the same attention to how it made her feel. Confident, authentic, powerful. On her desk sat a framed photo from Singapore, showing her team celebrating the completion of the Taylor project. Beside it, a newer picture. Caroline and Devon at their wedding 6 months earlier, both dressed in cream, the Singapore skyline behind them. The decision to accept the global integration position had ultimately been the right one. Under her leadership, Westridge had expanded international operations significantly, with Devon overseeing the Singapore engineering division. They maintained homes in both locations, their life together a blend of cultures and continents that mirrored the work they both loved. A knock at her door preceded her assistant. "Your 2 o'clock is here. The new department heads from European operations." "Send them in," Caroline instructed, gathering her materials for the meeting. 3 people entered, 2 men and a woman, all dressed in the sharp, professional attire of Westridge executives. Caroline greeted them warmly, noting the nervous energy of the woman, who introduced herself as Maria. As the meeting progressed, Caroline recognized something in Maria's hesitant contributions, brilliant ideas offered tentatively, as if uncertain of their reception. It reminded her of herself in those early days, before she'd found the confidence that came with authenticity. After the others left, Caroline asked Maria to stay behind. "Your analysis of the Frankfurt integration challenges was spot on," Caroline noted. "But you didn't push for your recommendations when Thomas questioned them." Maria looked surprised at the observation. "I'm still finding my footing in the new role. The dynamics are different from what I'm used to." Caroline smiled with understanding. "When I first joined Westridge, I was terrified of saying the wrong thing or being discovered as somehow inadequate." She gestured for Maria to sit. "Then I realized that my unique perspective was precisely what made my contributions valuable." "It's not always easy to trust that," Maria admitted. "No, it isn't," Caroline agreed. "But I've found that when you present your authentic self, with all your knowledge, experiences, and distinctive viewpoint, that's when you do your best work." As they discussed strategies for the European expansion, Caroline felt a sense of completion. Her journey had transformed not just her own life, but created space for others to bring their full selves to their work. The borrowed suit that once seemed like a desperate disguise had revealed the person she was always meant to be. That evening, Caroline left the office earlier than usual. Devon was flying in from Singapore, and she wanted to prepare a proper welcome after his 2-week absence. Their dual-continent life required effort, but provided rich rewards, both professionally and personally. At home, she changed from her work attire into comfortable slacks and a soft sweater, keeping her makeup but letting her brown hair down from its office-appropriate style. As she prepared dinner, she reflected on the conversation with Maria, remembering her own early uncertainty. The doorbell rang, Devon arriving with his usual punctuality. His face lit up when she opened the door, and he enveloped her in a warm embrace.
"Welcome home,"
she murmured against his shoulder.
"Home is wherever you are,"
he replied, a familiar exchange between them. Over dinner, they caught up on work developments and family news. Devon spoke about the Singapore office's latest achievements, while Caroline shared her impressions of the European team. "I saw your sister yesterday," Devon mentioned. "She says the suit is finally wearing out." Caroline laughed. "After all these years of alterations and wearing, I'm not surprised." She suggested we bronze it, like baby shoes, a monument to the beginning of Caroline. "I think I prefer the real legacy," she replied thoughtfully. "Seeing women like Maria find their voice at Westridge, knowing my journey somehow made that path a little clearer." Devon raised his glass. "To authenticity, then, and to the woman who had the courage to embrace it, changing not just her own life, but creating ripples that continue to expand." Caroline touched her glass to his, grateful for the unexpected turns that had led her here. To a life built on truth rather than expectation. To love founded on acceptance rather than pretense. To work that allowed her fullest self to flourish. The charcoal gray suit that had once seemed like a temporary disguise had revealed the person she had always been beneath the surface. Caroline Baker, in her rightful place at last.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!